when we look at Web 3.0 economy, we see increased users, increased number of technologies, increased number of startups, increased volume of transactions, increased investments, and of course, an increased activity in mergers and acquisitions. What are some of the Web 3.0 drivers? We believe that, of course, digital currencies and assets, DeFi, and then more recently now we've seen an uptick in the metaverse and omniverse are drivers of Web 3.0. Of course, when we look at converging technologies, they're numerous, but here are just a few that are really strong in terms of increased investments, increased deployments, and increased challenges that we're encountering when organizations are struggling how to embed them and how to harmonize them with the rest of their enterprise strategy. What are some of the challenges that we're all encountering? I think that's going to be the topic of our panel, probably quite a large portion of our time. Definitely, we have privacy issues that we must address. Trust in not only consumer trust, but also trust from the business ecosystem and the investment ecosystem. Cyber threats, as we've seen almost on a daily basis, we continue to face massive cyber attacks at all levels. And although the field is evolving very quickly, I think it's evident now that just cyber defense is not enough, and we must focus on creating a culture of cyber resilience. We all know the regulatory and legal challenges, even just with emerging technologies, trying to deploy one, yet alone, when we have to think about Web 3.0, they're going to be massive. And I think we understand that a global collaborative effort will be absolutely mandatory to be able to tackle the regulatory compliance and legal as well as tax challenges that need to be sorted out before we can actually say that we can even think about global adoption. And then last but not least, ESG consciousness. As we know, there has been some movement towards increased awareness and increased advocacy, but now I hope we can move towards designing appropriate metrics to track ESG activity, and then also to design appropriate KPIs that will measure and be able to understand long-term impact, not just short-term impact. What are some of the opportunities? And again, I hope that we can talk about these during our panel. But of course, democratization of data will have tremendous impact on our society, on our education, on the workforce. Creating zero trust environments for global data exchanges, I hope will also spearhead some of the research and development and maybe even completely disrupt that model. Social entrepreneurship, as we know, how we've pushed really hard over the last few years, but I think with Web 3.0, we can probably reach new heights if we do it right. There are also many of us who hope that with Web 3.0, we can actually reduce the divide in financial inclusion and increase digital inclusion as well. The same way we need a culture of cyber resilience, we also need a culture of digital ethics. Right now, the environment is still highly reactive, and people think about ethics only after problems occur, as opposed to design proactive ethical programs. And then last but not least, something very near and dear to my heart, UN SDGs and human rights. I think with Web 3.0, again, if we work collaboratively, if we have multidisciplinary teams, we can actually design frameworks for once that address these things from the beginning as opposed to when it's too late. And in terms of solutions, I'm going to skip this in detail because of time, but I just wanted to highlight that I have the privilege to work with a team that has identified solutions, and I'm looking forward to collaborating with team members around the world to enhance that solution so that we can address some of these sustainable goals. I think we're all aware that Web 3.0 can have an impact and will have an impact on all UN SDGs. I know that most of us care about all of them, but there are a few where I think Web 3.0 can really make a very quick transformative impact. Education and healthcare, I think, are definitely two. And I'm hoping also that smart cities and smart infrastructures will also be on the agenda for many business leaders, as well as global lawmakers and regulatory specialists. I think over the course of the last 2 years, even those that did not necessarily understand how technology and human rights can very quickly interact with each other, and how we can, even with good intent, end up violating human rights. Now I've seen an increase in understanding and collaboration. So I do hope that when we design Web 3.0 together, we can also embed human rights guardrails at every step. And I hope this is a call to action to actually design a Bill of Rights for Web 3.0, again, in advance, not later, and a code of conduct for Web 3.0. Last but not least, when we think about future directions, I'm excited to work with many experts around the world to not only design the Web 3.0 Code of Ethics, but also design and define what does digital citizenship mean in Web 3.0. As you know, I'm very passionate about digital twins, enable us to do this successfully. I already alluded to smart cities and global data exchanges that can help us with research and development to really accelerate that long life cycle that we've been accustomed to. And I also hope that we can really have human-centric data centers where data is used for good and is accessible to those that need it to do good around the world. Thank you so much for inviting me, and I tried to do it really quick so that we recuperate the time, and I'm looking forward to an interactive discussion. I'm happy to take questions at the end if needed.